Good morning. Welcome everybody to our first online lesson, live from my living room in self-isolation. I hope everybody is doing okay and not going too crazy yet. We're now starting week 3 of social isolation and quarantine. I don't know about you, but I'm going a little crazy. My condo is not very big, so make sure you get outside, go for a walk, call your friends, talk to people, try and learn some new skills. Don't just sit downstairs, play video games for 48 hours straight till your eyes fall out. Our new schedule and how things are going to be looking moving forward. So as you can see on our screen here, Monday block 1, which is our social studies 10-4 class, I'm going to always post our lessons at 10 a.m. The lesson will include a little video, like the one you're watching right now, which will last anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. After the video, I'm going to set a Google Hangout meeting to start at 10:30 a.m. So you're going to get a notification in your Google Classroom to join the meeting. As long as you have a Chromebook, a computer, or a phone, you will be able to join this meeting, and we can FaceTime and ask each other questions. We can go over what your assignment will look like, and we can chat and kind of catch up as to how things are going of historical globalization in our social studies class. So each day in our lesson, I'm going to give you guys a theme, okay? The theme of today's lesson will be what's called imperialism. Essentially means building empires. We're going to look at how European countries started to build empires around the world after the arrival of Columbus. Before I get into these slides, I just want to show you guys as well what you're going to be doing after the slides. So I have posted on our assignment questions that are going to pertain to this slideshow. So there are 10 questions in total. The questions are going to link directly to these slides that I'm going to go over. I've given you the slide numbers, and I've given you how many pieces of information I'm looking for each question. You will need to watch the videos that are in the slideshow, okay? Which means if you need to watch a video over, you can do that. You are going to submit your questions on Friday or earlier once you have completed them. Everything you need should be in this slideshow. Okay, so let's get to it. I want to go over a concept we were talking about before school was abruptly ended. Ask yourself, can you explain what mercantilism is? In the image that you see on the screen, you can see a woman who's dressed obviously very wealthy. She has a crown, and on her she has a sash that says Mother Country. She's receiving gold, silver, foodstuffs, and raw materials from 3 maids or attendants who have colony written on their dresses. I want you to think about what countries might the Mother Country represent. So which countries have we talked about that were able to build colonies and exploit them to gain wealth and power? If you said England, you would be correct. Okay guys, let's look at our 3 goals for today's lesson. Number 1, I would like you to be able to explain what imperialism means. Number 2, I want you to be able to identify an example of imperialism from history. What that means is I want you to be able to tell me what is an example of a country that built an empire and used it to exploit for its benefit. Number 3, I want you to think about what effects imperialism had on certain peoples. Imperialism, the building of empires. Imperialism is the process of building empires. So what is an empire? It is when a powerful country uses its army to control other countries and other peoples. The definition of imperialism is the policy of one country extending political, economic, or military control over another country. Can you think of any examples from history that you've heard of? Any empires? Perhaps what comes to mind is the Roman Empire. Okay, one of the biggest empires to ever exist in Europe. Another empire you might know of is the Mongol Empire. Genghis Khan and his horde took over all of Asia and even into Europe. So take a look at the image on this slide. You can see a man with a hat who has tentacles like octopus arms that are extending around the world. Each of these places has a text which tells you what country they are. So what country is represented by the man in the hat? And what is the country doing? If you look closely, you can see which country this man is representing. And you might notice as his hands are extending around the world and gobbling up and taking over different countries, Canada is one of the countries that England took over a few hundred years ago. And that makes sense. Think about it today. What language are we speaking? English. So why were they doing this? Europe was running out of raw materials. England needed new farmland, coal mines, and forests for tinder. England is on the island of Britain, and it's not a big island. And so if you have a lot of people and you're building new factories and growing, you need to look elsewhere to get food. They built colonies in order to get more of these resources. So anything you see in red here, England was able to take over and control as of 1763. You can see much of North America, where we have Canada today, the 13 colonies before they became the United States of America, okay? Places in India and the Philippines. On this slide here, I want you guys to watch this short video from Crash Course. It's just a couple-minute clip. And I want you to look at what is an example of a country Britain ruled over. So watch the video clip, and you can answer one of your questions in your assignment as to what is an example of a country Britain ruled over. On this slide, you see a map of North America in the year 1700. The question asks you which countries controlled North America in 1700. So if we take a look at our legend over here, you can see we have British lands, we're in red, okay, mostly down the coast here in what was called the 13 colonies. French lands in green, which controlled much of the area around Hudson's Bay, Quebec, and the central United States today. And in orange we see Spanish lands, which controlled what we would know as Mexico today and Central America, Florida, Cuba. Think about today, what legacies these have left behind. For example, if you've been to Quebec, you might know that they speak French. If you've been to Mexico or anywhere in Central America, they speak Spanish. Well, why is that? Well, Spain was able to control and build a colony in Mexico. Now let's go back to what we were talking about before. Why did they build empires? Spain, England, and France needed raw materials from their colonies in North and South America. Raw materials are things like timber, furs, sugar, rum, cotton, and in order to do this, they needed workers. Now, they don't get rich by paying their workers high wages and tons of vacation pay. These countries became very wealthy by using slavery, so not paying their workers. Many of these slaves, which we'll look at in an upcoming lesson, were brought over against their will from Africa to places in like the Caribbean and the United States in order to work on farms to help produce these materials. The workers on these farms were often poorly fed, overworked, and beaten by the Spanish. Many died from the abuse. Frankly put, if you didn't get your work done, you were beaten or potentially even killed. After a few years, the Aboriginal population in South America dropped by huge numbers. This was due to the poor working conditions and also new European diseases such as smallpox, which they had seen no immunity towards. Over 90% of the indigenous population in South America was dead by 1545, not even 50 years after the arrival of Christopher Columbus. This is over 20 million people. This is almost all directly attributed to disease and slavery. On this slide, you can see the graph that shows the population of the indigenous people of Mexico in 1518, so we can see 1518 here, their population in millions was over 25 million. By the year 1593, their population had fallen to below 2.5 million. So as I said, a death rate of over 20 million people. The last two slides, I'd like you to watch the two videos. The first one is on a Spanish conquistador, which means conqueror, named Hernan Cortez, and he conquered the Aztec Empire. I want you to watch that video, as well as this video, which outlines how diseases brought from the Europeans to the New World had a lasting impact and killed many people in North and South America. So think about this today with what we're living through. Pandemics are not new. Diseases have always jumped around the world. Pandemics, we have been seeing these since the beginning of history. However, before the world was not so connected, but now we are so connected that when diseases come from one part of the world to another, as we'll see in this video, a lot of the people that were living in North America at the time had no immunity and thus died very quickly. So once you have watched the videos and you've reviewed the slides, your next step is to take a look at your assignment questions. As I said, all of your questions pertain directly to those slides. So you answer them as you go. Make sure you check which slide number and how many marks you're getting for each, which pertains to how much information you need to answer. If you have questions, we'll answer and talk about in our Google Hangout Meet, or you can post on Google Classroom once you've finished. You will be able to turn in this assignment just as you would any assignment on Google Classroom. Okay, that does it for today's lesson. So just as a review, this was on imperialism, and your learning goals were to be able to explain what imperialism means, what an example of imperialism was from history, and what effects did imperialism have on certain peoples. That does it for today's lesson, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure you go over everything carefully. Wash your hands. Keep active. Keep fit. Eat healthy. Have some fun. Remember to smile. And remember to check in. You can send me an email. You can send comments on Google Classroom. Try and make yourself a video and send it in and tell me what you're up to. Share with the class. And remember, guys, this isn't permanent. This will come to an end. We have to do our part. Adios, guys.